Hey everybody, I'm Katrina, and this is one of my episodes of Kickin Back with Kat podcast. Today I have with me the fabulous Alice Croft. How are you today?
Hello. Thanks for having me. I'm great. How are you?
I'm okay, pretty tired. But okay.
Well, I can figure since it's kind of 8 a.m. at your place. So honestly, I'm glad I'm functioning at that kind of time in the morning.
I mean, I'm not really up at like 7 a.m., 6, 7 a.m. because, I have kids and all, and they don't believe in sleeping late on weekends. So I don't really sleep, but what can you do, right? So what was it that got you into wrestling? Like, what was the moment you're like, okay, I want to wrestle like that? Something I want to do for my career.
I think to make it very short, it's basically my fascination and my curiosity for a lot of stuff I do in my life. And at some point, I think it must have been at 13, maybe 14 years old. I was like, how the hell are they doing all that crazy, flippy, bumpy stuff? How the fuck are they doing that? I want to know. And that's basically the drive that got me into wrestling in the first place. And, I heard a wrestler say once that wrestling is kind of like HIV. Once you have it, you're not going to lose it again. And there's a lot of truth behind that because wrestling is, well, it's basically more than just the sport you see on TV and in the internet. There's so much more going on backstage, like in the relationship backstage, the people you meet and the experiences you make. And that just kind of pulls you in all the time.
I mean, not that I'm a wrestler, so I don't really know that, but from what I've known from like the people I became friends with over the last 2 years, a lot of people did tell me it's a lot of work with just writing storylines or like trying to get like factions together or setting a show up. It seems like a lot of work. So that's cool that you mentioned that, only because I do know there's so much like effort outside of what we see the final product. There's so much effort getting to that show. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, however, that kind of glues the people together in the first place because all the hardship you encounter on your road to becoming a wrestler in the first place, all that kind of stuff, it just kind of forms a very, very special kind of relationship between all of us. So basically, with all my guys I still know from wrestling today, they're basically my brothers and sisters, all of them, no matter what they do.
So, what was there a specific promotion that was like you watch? Like for me, I watched WWE mostly before I kind of watched other things. So I did watch ECW, and I really didn't like WCW, but I watched it a few times. I was like that WWE, like we had to watch every week, gonna have like 3-4 shows a week, and I was watching it with my brothers and sisters and my mom. So was that how it was?
Yeah,
WWE was like your main wrestling promotion, or was there other promotions you watched?
So WWE was basically one of my favorite promotions back in the day because I just really liked the entertainment part they had along with the wrestling as it is. I'm probably going to make a lot of enemies saying that. But yeah, I think when you like wrestling, you also really much like you gotta like entertainment to some point. I know a lot of people involved in wrestling who also like theater, who like musicals, who like all sorts of stuff basically that can help them express themselves on top of that. So that's what kind of bound me to WWE. Nowadays it got a little bit less because I've started a new job. All sorts of stuff are going on, and I just don't have the time anymore to do it. But I've been following AEW for a while now. And, well, I'm still kind of following the German promotions, the Austrian promotions we have over here. I think one of the biggest promotions over here in Germany is WXW right about now. And so, yeah, that, it's fun.
And would you say like the wrestling, how I guess the aspects of wrestling is different in Germany than it is in like the United States? Is it like similar or is there like very vast differences? Like New Japan is like very specific type wrestling, and where they have the entertainment portions, their wrestling style is slightly different than how I would see wrestling shows in the US. So how is that? Is that like the same over there where Germany is a bit different with how they go about doing their wrestling matches?
If you consider how they're doing their wrestling matches, we really did take a lot of WWE,
Mhm.
and we had a lot of, in general, American influence on it. So I would say if there was an American wrestler coming to wrestle in Germany, he wouldn't notice much of a difference, actually.
Okay, cool.
But that's good, you know?
I mean, yeah, it's good. I mean, I like New Japan, and I'm like relatively new. Like I found out about them like 2 years
You
ago. I
guys
had no
are
idea they existed,
hardcore.
and I actually really like it's. They have entertainment parts, but it's not over the top. And I'm like, I don't know why, but I actually like it. Like I like it. Probably it's my favorite promotion currently is New Japan, and then I will probably say WWE. But
Yeah, they're really something else, especially because they have these really special kind of gimmicks also
yeah,
going on for them. Their flashy clothes and all of the presentation going on.
yeah.
It's really mind-boggling sometimes.
Yeah, that's actually why I love Hibimu Takahashi, because his gear is like insane, and I'm like, you're just so like extra with your gear, but he's such a good wrestler too. And I'm like, I think that's why I like his character. Like your gimmick is like super flashy and it's like kind of funny, but then you also can wrestle, and I'm like, that's always a plus.
Yeah,
Obviously,
exactly that.
but
It's
the
just
gimmick is like insane.
yeah, he's a great entertainer.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can involve both of those parts into yourself, then you're a born entertainer.
How would you describe your gimmick to somebody who's never seen you wrestle before, or they're being introduced to you for the first time? How would you describe your gimmick and how you go about your wrestling persona?
About my wrestling persona, I've always been known in Germany as the tough little ring crew girl, basically. So yeah, back when I started out training, there wasn't a lot of girls in training at that
Mhm.
point. It was mostly just, I think, two, maybe three girls, and we couldn't be all of us there at the same time because some of them really lived really far away. So we kind of had to grow up training with guys,
Uh-huh.
sometimes only with guys, and yeah, it's quite interesting, but it also hardens you in a way
Uh-huh.
because you kind of get used to it. It's a different feeling if a woman picks you up and gives you a body slam than
Mhm.
it would be if a guy sometimes gives you a body slam. You're just gonna have some more force behind it. I mean, they have yeah.
And would you say that was like a benefit training with mostly guys than if you would have had the opportunity to train with like other women?
I would say it's a good opportunity
Mhm.
because I don't want to spoil too much at this point from behind the scenes, but if you're training with guys, you're gonna get eventually used to also having to lift heavier guys than you
Uh-huh.
and bigger guys, taller guys, and it kind of makes you, it kind of prepares you in case something should go wrong in the ring. You kind of learn to adapt to it in a better way.
Okay, that makes sense. Would you say the journey to being a wrestler has been like a tough journey for you? Has it been like easy, or was it something that you kind of had to like grit through?
Well, it certainly took some years of my life. I'm not gonna lie about that, but I wouldn't give this journey away for anything else in this life, to be honest. Because yeah, I had some of the most painful experiences there, but I also had some of the funniest experiences and the greatest experiences with people around me.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was tough, but it was a story that formed me basically, and so I wouldn't want to miss it.
Okay, cool, cool. Is there like things that's really hard about being a wrestler? Like, I've asked people before, just like if you have to travel, is that like hard? Is it, would you consider it like a hard or lonely type of road, or is it something that you're okay with when it requires you to like travel for shows or even if you're just prepping for a different show and you're just getting yourself in the space ready for that, would you say the road's like something that's an easy road, or where you say it's like kind of lonely or like isolating?
It really depends on the people you surround yourself with, because I'm gonna be real here. The people, the things you encounter out there on the
Mhm.
street during the road trips, the jokes you make, the stories you tell, um, this is a lot of stuff that people from the outside of this whole wrestling bubble,
Mhm.
they wouldn't be really able to understand it. And yet at the same time, when you get home, you basically have nobody you can tell these stories to.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of it's hard for a lot of people to comprehend the whole deal as to why you would sacrifice so much of your time into the business, why you would be on the road all the time, why some on some weekends you won't have time to meet your friends or your lovers.
Mhm.
And yeah, as I said, it really depends on what people you surround yourself with. Some will understand, some will eventually go, you're happy doing that, and I can see you're happy, and I see it makes you happy, so it makes me happy too. These are the people you want to surround yourself with. However, there are also people who will not be likely to understand. They're going to be like, you know what, you're putting yourself into a ring gear that's basically sitting tightly on your body. You take bumps that have a toll on your neck and your entire health, and you barely make any time for us on the weekends
Uh-huh.
because naturally you're going to be tired after you've been on the road. You didn't have a lot to eat, you didn't have a lot of sleep. You In a lot of cases you're going to build up a ring and break it down again. So yeah, it's tough, but if you meet the people who understand,
Mhm.
these are going to be the people who are very, very valuable to you. I'm
Okay.
stuttering.
I know. I definitely understand, and not that I understand as far as what it is. I don't wrestle, so I don't know how much I could personally deal with like having to travel or not seeing people I care about like often enough. Um, you
Yeah, it's
said
tough. That's really tough.
yeah. You said WWE was your favorite promotion growing up. So who are some of your favorite wrestlers that you liked from WWE that you was like, I have to watch this person on TV?
There were a lot of people. I was a huge fan of DX, but one of my absolute idols in the ring and around the ring was Stone Cold Steve Austin all the time. It's why I involved the stunner into my moveset back in the day. So yeah, I love that guy. I mean, I'm not much of a drinker myself,
Uh-huh.
but seeing him get into the ring, rampage, just opening those cans of beer, shoving it into his face, I love that guy. He just didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I liked him too. He was just super like, I'm kick your ass real quick, grab a beer, and then that's it.
All
Was
right,
it one of his gimmicks was like raise hell and leave, and I'm like, yes, definitely do. That's my kind of thing. Definitely do whatever hell you need to raise, and then just dip. Like totally understand like why people like Stone Cold. Was there anybody else you really like gravitated to?
I was a huge fan of Dolph Ziggler as well. I really liked the way he would move around the ring and the way he was selling stuff, and he really made everything look even bigger and even better than it already was. So I think he's a great wrestler, and definitely someone people can take as an example for themselves.
I
And
definitely agree with Dolph.
then there was Shawn Michaels,
Yes.
because he's just hella funny and entertaining. He was just amazing. Hardly anyone will get anywhere close to what Shawn Michaels did, and obviously the Undertaker, because the Undertaker fucking rules.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels is actually one of my top five. I probably went my maybe top two, honestly, like wrestlers of all time, because he was just so entertaining and he was so
Yeah,
egotistical. But I mean, like it's kind of annoying, but then it worked because he actually backed it up. So it's like, okay, well, he's kind of an a-hole, but he kind of backs it up. So can you like really fault
it's not
him?
arrogant if you can back it up.
so so I loved his, like he definitely was the showstopper. Definitely agree with Shawn Michaels. And why I want to say Undertaker is at least my top 10, but I do appreciate his gimmick. I feel like very few people can pull a gimmick for that as long as he did, and just keep it where people still get excited when you hear the music come on and you know it's about to be Undertaker, and that he could still get that.
I still sing it all the time. You would be so annoyed. Like if the two of us were roommates, you would be so fucking annoyed with me because I'm the most random person. I will run into the room just going, "I'm just a sexy boy," even though I'm not even a boy, but you know, just because YOLO.
Would you say how would you say the current state of women wrestling is? Like, we know like in the 90s or even sometimes like I want to say like the 90s era of women in WWE was like they were supposed to be pretty. They was like mostly managers. They didn't really wrestle too much. And while we had the handful who like knew how to wrestle and they were really good at it, unfortunately, a lot of their, a lot of women who could wrestle was kind of pushed back into these like, let's be pretty kind of gimmicks. I'm just here to be pretty and showcase certain body parts. And now we know wrestling, now at least women seem a lot more athletic and a lot more willing to take those bumps.
And I love that.
Like how I loved Alita growing up because she was like kind of tomboyish, but then she was pretty, but she was tomboyish and she can take the bumps and she can flip off stuff. And I'm like, that to me was like amazing. I'm like, oh my God, you're flipping off stuff. You're like, I could never do that. And you're like so pretty doing it. How do you feel about like wrestling then and now the current state of wrestling where we're kind of seeing more of how women can really hang in there with the men as well?
Basically, if I think back of when I started out training personally, I got there with determination. I wanted to bring a change because I really had that feeling that women's wrestlers just basically had to look pretty and be there so fans can go, oh, she's so pretty, she's so cute. Just let her do her thing. The fans love it, and that's about it. But I came with the intention that I also wanted to be a good technical wrestler. I wanted to, stand out from the crowd in a certain way. And I think especially in the last 7 to 8 years, women's wrestling really, really took off. I mean, if you look at people like Asuka, if you look at people like Charlotte Flair, if you look at people like Sasha Banks, these are all ladies who really live for wrestling, and damn, they kick ass.
Yeah. Yeah, Asuka's actually one of my favorite wrestlers. I feel like I loved her before WWE. Like I kind of watched some of her wrestling before WWE, but I'm like, she could actually wrestle. So I'm like, I'm always like, I'm like, listen, it's one thing when you're like, you kind of give WWE a bit of a pass because sometimes they can't help how the storylines are, but she could actually really wrestle her ass off. And I'm like, listen.
It's so crazy. And I love exactly that about her. She's such a good wrestler, but she's also so crazy and cute. And she's just, what's the word for it? When someone seems real to you, just
genuine.
Yes, that's it. And I absolutely adore her.
Like she's
if I ever had a chance to meet her in person, I would probably freak out. I would get a complete markout. I don't even care. Teach me senpai.
So you said that your old moveset used to have like the stunner in it. So what is your current moveset like? What was ways you try to revamp your gimmick for? I know like wrestlers sometimes have to kind of tweak things to kind of keep themselves refreshing or like new, but also kind of hold on to what made them that wrestler in the first place. So how would you describe like, what is your current moveset and how would you just describe the way that it kind of incorporates with your gimmick?
So my current moveset consists of a lot of technical stuff in general. I still do the bicycle kick, even though I got really cautious about it because the bicycle kick is the reason why I have 7 scars on my knee right now. But I still do that one because I just love kicking in the ring. I also intend on learning an enzigiri because these things look amazing. I also did that stunner. And another thing I did was that flying crossbody. But I'm thinking about switching the flying crossbody out for a diamond dust instead. Because it's basically like a stunner, but even bigger because you make a fucking flip over your opponent. and I think that's cool.
That's pretty dope. I like that you mentioned technical wrestling. I don't like we sometimes I feel like Japanese wrestling is more closer with technical wrestling than or at least with the women from what I've seen. So you said you like technical wrestling as part of your moveset. Do you have like a favorite technical wrestler that you just like just kind of admire? Oh, you're really good like technically in the ring.
Jonathan Gresham, that guy. Wow. I mean, back in the day, I even had a chance to partake in a seminar he did back in
Uh-huh.
Germany, and the stuff he taught us in those like 2 maybe 3 hours we had that seminar, that was just some real valuable stuff. It showed me so many other ways of looking at things in general, and it basically just changed my perspective of how much you can make out of something as simple as a hammer lock, for example, or a wrist lock or
Uh-huh.
a headlock. And there's just so much more building blocks you can put in a row with that. It's really cool, and I would love to do it again. I would love to train with the guy again. Also, Zack Sabre Jr. I don't think I had a seminar with Zack yet, but I would love to do it.
Okay, interesting. I actually like I do appreciate his technical things. I always feel like there's been other technical wrestlers I like Daniel Bryan is pretty good when he's being really technical, or I want to say Kurt Angle was pretty good with technical, even though it's like taboo to mention him sometimes. Chris Benoit, before he did the terrible things that he did, he was a very, very good technical wrestler. And I don't ever want to take that credit from him for that. But I do see like Zach sometimes bores me to the point that I don't know what it is. But maybe it's just because I'm used to the other stuff in New Japan, for instance. But I do appreciate that he does have a very wide knowledge of technical wrestling. And it's
Yeah, he
like,
definitely does.
it's like you of course seeing the cool flip stuff is cool and it's exciting, but also I feel like technical versus wrestling rather focuses on like the basics of wrestling, like when you're first starting out. So I think it's always cool to kind of see people incorporate that, like even on a show as like New Japan or like WWE. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Um, about Zack Sabre, I never really could handle a lot of technical wrestling back in the day. Like really in the beginning, when I was just starting out my training, I was like, typical rookie syndrome. Oh, I wanna do this flip. I wanna take this huge bump. I wanna be able to do this and this cool kick and stuff like that. And then I watched a match Zack had against the late Carsten Beck. May he rest in peace. Um, and it was in Mannheim, and the two of them had a match against each other. And it was basically Zack showing off his techniques and ending it with Karsten being caught up in his own singlet, like in the straps of his singlet he was wearing, which were holding him in a Boston crab. And he was just basically like a turtle on its back, and he couldn't move. And I was in tears laughing. And all of that was just achieved through technical wrestling. And I think that's a really, really cool thing to do.
Yeah,
And a
Zach
good
definitely
way to
like
use.
cool with the submission maneuvers that I've seen him do. And I'm like, okay, I'll probably tap. But
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Like I personally, I don't like again, I don't wrestle. So there's like so many different aspects that I appreciate when I see a wrestler like, oh, you can do this, and that's pretty cool. Or I'll gravitate to something else about a wrestler. So
Oh well, to each their own, I guess.
so is there like somebody you really wanted to wrestle, even if it's like another woman wrestler, or if it's even fight like going against a male that you really is like a bucket list match for you that you're like, this person I want to wrestle someday?
Ooh, there are actually a couple of wrestlers. Because an absolute dream match of mine would obviously be Asuka. But I think right now, about at this point, it's kind of a utopia thought. But um, some other really, really talented girls I would like to wrestle are Jessie J. She's an Austrian wrestler, and she's really badass. She's really tough. But I would love to share the ring with her because she's really awesome. Then there's also Lexa Valo, and she's also an absolutely lovely lady, but damn, she's going to beat your ass. And I want to test myself out at it. So yeah, these two are definitely on my bucket list right about now.
Nice.
These are
I hope you
these
get
are
to
the
do that.
goals. Come again?
I said, I hope you get to do that. I always like when I see women that's like super badass. Like, I'm like, yes, show everybody why you're like nothing to mess with in the ring. Also, I love gimmicks like that where it's just like they're super tough and super badass, and you're just like, okay. It's one of the reasons why I like.
You smack them down, and they will just come right up at you, just staring at you, going like, "You really think this is going to do something?"
As I love when women can like show that side too. Like I can be super dominant and super like I can kick your ass too, and you can't do anything about it. And I love gimmicks like that. I think it's super like awesome to see that. If you
They really
were,
are.
I'm sorry, what you're saying?
They really are.
If you wasn't wrestling and you wasn't wrestling as your career, is there any other career you could see yourself doing if you wasn't wrestling?
I could still go about the whole personal training and self-defense deal because next to wrestling, I'm also a black belt wearer.
Oh,
I
nice.
do Hapkido. It's a Korean military self-defense, and yeah, I learned that a couple of years ago. It's pretty awesome. I gotta admit, I kind of miss it.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I could see myself doing that. I also like, hunting people around. So I might as well be a personal trainer, just going about, you go quicker, you fucking disgrace at people. I also, I could also consider a cooking career.
Oh, nice.
That's anticlimactic.
Are you like a really good cook? Like there's people who know how to cook, but there's people who know how to like really cook, and you're like, everything the person probably cook is gonna be amazing. Are you like one of those like people who can just like put anything in the kitchen and it's like super amazing?
I would say it's amazing, but you can eat it and not die. So that's something.
I mean, that's always a
Gordon
good
Ramsay still wouldn't approve of me. I don't think so.
thing.
He would call me an idiot sandwich.
I love Gordon Ramsay. He's amazing.
But the thing about Gordon Ramsay is he's not scary when he's yelling at people. You know he gets scary when he's calm. When he just comes up to your face like, what are you doing? That's when you know you fucked up.
I have to agree. I love Gordon Ramsay. Like, one, he's great with kids. Like, he's so nice with kids. But usually, I feel like if he's not yelling, then something like I figure like used to him yelling at people. That it's like if he's not yelling, what did you do? That he's just like, okay, we're gonna do it
just
right
going
today.
to grab a knife and kill you, my guy. I'm sorry, but you're not going to escape that one.
So how long has it been since you decided to start wrestling, and where did you start off?
I started out at the West Side Dojo at WXW. I had my tryout in the end of 2011, I think.
Mm-hmm.
At the tryout was held by Tommy End and Michael Dante, the Sumerian Death Squad. Tommy End is now known as Aleister Black at WWE, so I'm really glad he got there. But man, I miss Tommy. He was such a cool trainer. He was one of my favorite trainers actually, because he was always this good mixture out of strict and fair.
Yeah.
That means he pushed you to your limits, but he didn't do that because he was malicious about it. He did that because he knew you could do it. And basically that's how he got all of us, into the state of mind doing training, and it was really awesome. And so yeah, I had to try out in 2011 with him, and I started shortly after that, in the beginning of 2012.
Okay. And is there like, if you could, I want to say like, I don't know if you like had certain goals you were trying to reach when you started wrestling, or what goals were you like looking out to? Like, I know you said you wanted to see like how was people able to do the stuff that they were able to do, but was there like personal goals you set for yourself when you started to wrestle? Did you meet those goals?
I think if I can tell that about myself, I think I might have played a tiny cogwheel in a big picture of
Mm-hmm.
getting a stone rolling for women's wrestling, especially like in Europe, because in Europe at the time we started in Germany, especially, there was hardly anything going on at that time.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like the fact that there were now girls in training at the Westside Dojo or at the wrestling academy that it now is. I think that encouraged some girls to, overcome this barrier of, I don't know if I'm going to be made of it. I'm kind of scared training with the guys. I think we were able to give that a little nudge. But however, mostly in Germany, the general area.
I mean, I know you said you feel like you're like a small part of like a bigger picture, but I feel like because you said there wasn't a lot of women wrestling when you started, I think that's awesome that you were one of the first that got in the ring and was like, I'm going to train and I'm going to do this too, because there's just so much sometimes, unfortunately. And while, yes, we are seeing more women wrestle, it's still always that stigma like women have to sometimes work a little harder to show you that they're just as like awesome as some of the male wrestlers are. So that's cool that you was like, I want to let people know that we can do this too and be just as cool as like the guys who's wrestling. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
What?
I think that's just a good way to go about things because I know out of the biological side, how we are built in general, women are just not able, they're not going to be able to lift like 200, 300 kilograms.
Yeah.
But our bodies are just not made for that.
Hmm.
But we're going to ace in other aspections for that part. We're going to bring a lot of creativity in because, you know, a lot of women are really creative.
Yeah.
um, we bring a lot of toughness into it. We bring the fighting spirit into it. And I think if you show that around the business and if you live to that mantra in the business, then I think you're going to be taken in, especially by the guys backstage. They're going to take you in so quickly and they're going to treat you as one of their own
Hmm.
if you just show them that there's the base for them to do it.
Makes sense. I like that answer. Um, where how would you, if you can compare yourself to anybody, if you would compare yourself to anybody, how would you compare yourself as far as the way you wrestle to somebody else that might be known?
Ooh, good question. Because we were always encouraged to be our own version of ourselves. And because of that, we basically all learned the same basics. But at the same time, we were encouraged to build our own moveset, have our own endeavors in terms of having, in terms of building ourselves up in a certain way.
Uh-huh.
And we always had the help to do that on top of that because I wouldn't say I just kind of, or that we just kind of are version 2.0s of someone else's wrestling style. But I definitely had a lot of influence on my wrestling style from, yeah, Tommy End, because he was basically the guy who taught me how to take a back bump. He was the guy who taught me how to do a body slam or a suplex, and he also taught me a lot about this brother and sister aspect backstage.
Uh-huh.
Because if you don't work as a team in wrestling, then there's not a very high chance that you're going to go anywhere, basically. So he really always encouraged us to be basically a bigger version of ourselves, who we are outside of the ring and in our personal lives. We also are basically inside of the ring. We just magnified ourselves by 1,000%.
Hmm. Nice. I appreciate that answer. Where could you see yourself in like 5 years? Like, what are some things that you haven't done yet that you really want to do as far as your career in wrestling?
Ooh, I would love to go to America at some point. I mean, it doesn't have to be like WWE because I'm turning 28 this year. I don't know if I'm not already maybe too old for the standards. I don't know how they choose their people, but it's definitely going to be a long road, especially back into the business now for me, because ever since I got injured, I've been out of the ring for quite a while now. So I'm going to have to relearn a lot of stuff. I'm going to have to rebuild my entire self basically, and that's going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in 5 years I can see myself standing in a ring, maybe at some indie promotions if I do a good job in America. I would love to. I would definitely love to go over there. I would love to wrestle in Japan as well at some point, maybe, because I just feel like that's on my bucket list. There's so many things that you can learn from each different style of wrestling, basically,
Mm-hmm.
which means I want to see how the Japanese style works. I want to see how lucha wrestling works. I want to see how the genuine American wrestling works. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, just because I learned the American style of wrestling, I don't think I have seen all the facets of it yet. So I see myself, if I see myself in 5 years, I see myself still learning.
Uh-huh.
I'll be a wrestler. I'll be eventually back in the ring, but I'll always be in a constant process of learning.
Yeah, I love that. I love that answer. It's a great answer. What are your thoughts of like the current state of wrestling? Like, I'm not sure how. Like, I know, like in American, like here with wrestling, it's like everybody was like, "Oh, WWE's like has a monopoly on American wrestling," and then there's like the other companies. And again, I do love WWE, but I do appreciate being able to see other promotions as well. So, what are your thoughts on like the current state of wrestling, or your thoughts on like intergender matches where it's like a man going against a woman, or like your thoughts about that? Because I've heard really like two different sides of that like discussion. So what are your thoughts of those type of matches and like the current state of wrestling as a whole?
I think, especially with the pandemic going on right about now, it has dealt a really bad blow to the entire entertainment branch, as you would say it, also wrestling, because a lot of entertainers, uh, they just can't do what they love. They just can't be on the road right about now at the moment, and I feel like there's a lot of frustration about that building up in the business in general. And yeah, so I think it will definitely be different once wrestling returns.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think wrestling is done in any sort of way. I don't think wrestling, uh, has dealt a fatal blow out of this.
Mm-hmm.
I just think wrestling is going to need some time to recalibrate, rebuild, and I think it will get there. As in intergender matches and all of that stuff. I mean, I can basically see both sides in that manner, because I can see the point that women can be just as strong as men if they really get behind it, because as I said, we're going to shine in other endeavors than being strong. We're quick, for example. We're very flexible, for example.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things we can do in order to win a match. So I can see a woman beating a man in a ring, definitely. The reason, the other side, however, is if you're a guy and you get into a fight with a woman, you're gonna have two losing scenarios in front of you, basically. Either you win against a woman and you're going to be a woman beater, or
Mm-hmm.
you lose against a woman and the other guys are going to think, you got beaten by a woman. And I think that's pretty sexist. So I really encourage intergender matches as it is. I think it could be a good step to normalize them, for as long as, of course, both sides agree to do it.
Uh-huh.
No man should have to fight a woman if he has a strict conclusion of, hell no, I'm not going to lay my hand on a woman, like ever. I mean, I totally get that. But at the same time, I can also see why a woman standing in front of a 2 meter 50 wrestler is going to look at him and go, nope. So yeah, I see both sides of it. I think it's a good way to make to underline that women can be really tough and they can be hard to beat, that they can be badass, but you should consider both sides of it.
Okay. So again, I don't want to keep you too long. So this is my last question for you. You said you started wrestling in like 2012. So of all the matches that you have been able to do, what has been your favorite match of your career so far?
Ooh, let me think. I can't think of some matches that I really, really loved. There was this one match at EPW. It's a promotion in Bremen. It's in northern Germany. And it was run by German wrestling legend Eddie Steinblock. And Eddie, he was this kind of wrestler that remained really, really old school in the way he was going about things. And what I really liked about him was he would give a chance to anyone who worked hard. Which means if you were respectful towards him, if you went and greeted him and all the other performers, if you were professional backstage, then he would grant you a valuable chance of showing off what you can do. And that, well, it was an entire weekend. It was 2 events. And in the first day, my opponent and we basically got the co-main event, which is huge because I was still basically a rookie at that point. That was one of my first matches, and I was like, "You're going to put me into what?" So, yeah, that was pretty cool for a start. It was a mixed tag team match. So it was me and Dark Soul against Melanie Gray and Adam Pollack, who's a great guy, by the way. And yeah, so that match was really, really cool. And the next day, I had my revenge rumble against Melanie Gray, which means we had a singles match. And I think we did about 16 minutes in that match.
Oh, nice.
That was just really awesome because we got to do so much stuff. We had so much space in order to unfold ourselves, basically. That event was basically like a clear canvas for us to work in. And that was a really cool opportunity. And the other really cool match I had was in Belgium. It was in Antwerp. And there was, we also had a tag team match, a mixed tag team match. The funny thing is, it was again against Melanie Gray and Karsten Beck, that guy I talked about earlier. And it was me and Peter Fischer. He was also a wrestler from around my area. And at some point, Karsten Beck meant he wanted to intimidate me a little bit. So he got into a ring. He was making himself look all big. He was coming up to me. And so I just grabbed him and I body slammed him.
That's so awesome.
Oopsie. That was cool though. That was by far my favorite wrestling moment I had in match. And the pop that the crowd gave me in that moment, because they just didn't see it coming. That was just awesome. I love that.
That sounds pretty cool to see. I would have loved to see that.
It was amazing. I love it. I love throwing people around, picking them up, throwing them around, kicking butt, taking names.
That's definitely the way to. So
I'm definitely not Satan.
So I wanted to thank you so much for coming on my podcast with me and talking with me.
Thanks for having me.
I will have all social media links or anything you want to promote. It will be in the description, everyone. And just want to say again, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I will
Thank you very much.
later.
To you. Have a great day. See you then.